another day to talk about some of the ridiculous practices that the politicians and the newspapers say. So you know what, it's always fun because you know what, somebody somewhere is always going to get mad. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point when you realize that actually trying to win over people who will fundamentally disagree with you is in the long term not worth it. You can't please everybody in this game, and especially because of what I'm about to say next. The Daily Express claims that Boris Johnson is going to vow to make good on Brexit freedoms. First problem is that I would argue very much we are no more we are no freer than we were 8 years ago when we left the European Union. Oh, and by the way, campaigning on great Brexit freedoms. Well, if that's true, then I'm pretty sure Boris Johnson should, able to say what they are, from the single markets, which, bear in mind, whether you want to believe any of the talk about this, the fact is that we're in recession doesn't seem to suggest the idea that whatever they want to spin on single markets or European markets or trade with the rest of the world and how there's new deals, despite the fact that new doesn't always mean better. So you could argue the validity of such economic claims to say from these things that have made us successful, bearing in mind that Boris Johnson was always renowned as a gambler when he was in number 10, and somebody who literally went all too far. Bear in mind, those suitcases full of wine and champagne couldn't have been cheap when he was hosting those parties. So, do you really suspect Boris Johnson is the sort of person we want to listen to when it comes to this thing? Then, there comes this really interesting article I found that apparently the UK government is willing to pay £3,000 to migrants to move to Rwanda. So, let's go over a couple of things. The United Kingdom is in recession, and yet we could just find $3,000 to actually, tell migrants to go away to Rwanda. So suddenly, I think this is the only way, to be honest, that I think I might have actually said this before, that the only way you're ever actually going to convince the European Court of Human Rights that actually this is in any way legal is if we just straight up pay people so they go with their own volition. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting as well that we're in recession and there has been some monumental cuts, some things that actually needs like videos and essays of their own, from Birmingham City Council saying that to children with extra attention should be homeschooled from now on. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm telling you right now, there's more. Then there's also very strange litigations about the ideas of, are things really that desperate that actually there's, from Bobby Stickholm or whatever that barge is called, being a potential fire hazard, to the fact that just straight up, how many migrants are we actually planning on paying to do this? That's the next question, because let's say if it's 100 migrants so we're wanting to be paid to go to Rwanda, that's £30,000 it's going to cost us, not the government. I couldn't imagine the government actually willing to put their hands in their own pockets for this. Absolutely no way. It will come out of, the taxpayers' money, so £30,000 for basically 100 people. But then again, what if 100 people is a gross underestimate? What if it's 1,000 people? That's 300,000 people. What if it's 10,000 people? That's like £3 million just to ask people to go away. That's going to cost us, and we're in recession. So who was sniffing the tarmac when they must have thought that was a good idea? Because I'm not thoroughly convinced, however, that this is just somebody, maybe Jeremy Hunt is playing a practical joke on people by saying that, that they're going to actually put this into action. Also, whether they're legally allowed to do this anyway, because someone could turn around and say that they're accusing this of bribery, and also inadvertently a form of bribery. And then, of course, there's the age-old question, ladies and gentlemen, and something I've raised from the very first moment I heard about this idea of wanting to shift migrants off to Rwanda is this, is that there is a very nasty, out of sight, out of mind attitude to all this. Or the fact that the government seems to be under the suggestion that they're trying to preach to us that this is only concerning illegal migrants. But apparently, if they're now saying to migrants, not illegal or otherwise, that they're going to pay £3,000 to have them for them to move to Rwanda of their own volition, it seems to suggest the idea that the UK government is just simply willing to pay criminals as well as those who have moved here completely, by the book and by the orders. And like I said before, ladies and gentlemen, now the government wants you to think that there is no distinction between people who have moved here and migrated to this country legitimately versus those who haven't. So ask yourself the question, ladies and gentlemen, what's worse in your opinion? The fact that the government was willing, that this idea was even suggested, or the fact that they still want you to think that, people who are not British are the enemy? What's worse in your opinion? Because even at this point, I'm now completely under the impression that, again, this government will literally resort to no lows in terms of scapegoating the disabled, the elderly, those not of this country, Africans, Asians, Americans, South Americans, North Americans, Europeans, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Polish, the Italians, the Austrians, the Hungarians, the Bulgarians, the Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Afghanistanians, the Pakistanians, the Indians, the Sri Lankans. Oh, the list goes on. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, the list goes on. But all we're getting from this, once again, ladies and gentlemen, is that age-old tactic of, look over there, it's their problem, or look over there, it's a picture of the Princess of Wales. Let's make a story about this over a photograph for those who even care at this point. That's the only thing I can say about this. The only reason I've not mentioned that photo anyway on Mother's Day is because I don't really care. And it's tantamount to the fact that people will vindicate over things like photographs over the fact that, Mothering Sunday and what it actually means for people. So whatever your opinions are, perfect. I imagine they might be the same, but that's just the reason why I don't talk about them. So I'm glad I could iron that out. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, there's just this to say. I know fine well that this is probably, like I said, going to go nowhere because, well, like Boris promising great Brexit freedoms and we're going to pay migrants to go away and stuff like that. But unfortunately, and I know you're going to be saying this as well, is that all this talk is going to lead to surprisingly small results, or if any. And they're not going to be results for this country. They're going to be results for those who are either too gullible to believe that everything they hear is true, or in the pockets of the elite, and this country will grow richer once again without making the working class or the underprivileged any richer, except for the highest members of society. Once again, it's pull the ladder up, Jack, and sod the rest. And that means everyone else. So good luck, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you all again next time.